understand the benefits of digital payments and what it gives you. And now with that, when people are becoming more educated and they're becoming smarter, they're making the right choices based on, and we're already seeing that, right? A certain transaction goes on UPI, a certain kind of transaction goes on cards, a certain transaction goes on an EFT or an RTGS. And I think that's where the future of payments is going to be in this country.
I would say what UPI has done is fantastic. I think they've created this financial literacy. So the financial literacy automatically happened as a result of this digitization movement without basically anybody going to a school or reading a book.
And how do wearables fit into all of this as payments? I mean, I think fairly new, even worldwide. Some of it is happening with Apple Watches, etc.
So I use it a lot.
Yeah, but I know you're partnering with both on that. How do you see that fitting into the Indian ecosystem, which is also very cost sensitive?
First of all, our focus is every device is a commerce device, right? So we're saying whether it's your phone, your watch, where your ring or your any other wearable, even your earring could actually make a payment if you would like, So the whole idea is that you can bring that particular device close to where the merchant's terminal is, and then you can tap and the transaction will happen. And the way it works is it's very, very secure because we tokenize that transaction. So it's not really the real payment credential. It's an alias of that which gets stored. It is tied to the device. And then basically we create very, very unique identifier per transaction when the transaction happens. So it's ultra secure. And that's where we're saying, okay, choice to the consumer. Any form factor you use, whether you want to tap your phone, your watch, your earring or your ring, that will happen. And that trend is increasing big time.
What happens to the physical card, which in a lot of parts of the world has become redundant? I mean, the idea of plastic. What happens to that in India? Where do you see that going?
So I think the physical card may lose its relevance in that sort. It'll become a little bit of a backup. I can totally see that. But the underlying technology that either a physical card uses or what these devices use is going to remain. That's perennial. And I think the future of payments, of card payments, will lie in a way that anything, and Sandeep said, any payment device, any device is a payment device. I think anything that is connected is able to be connected to the internet or some kind of a network. Will be able to just make a payment, and you will not even. It's only your subconscious. You won't even know that you did it. As commerce becomes part of your subconscious, payment becomes a part of your subconscious. There will have to be the right security controls, right? We are already, as Mastercard, we've already invested in technology which basically does velocity checks, right? So if we see today, right, if a particular card is doing 10 transactions in 5 minutes at a particular vendor, at a particular merchant, we know that potentially it's fraud, right? You're not going to swipe your card 10 times or tap your phone 10 times. I think we're already on that journey. So I'm not worried about the fact that if this becomes part of your subconscious, what happens to your bank account? I think it'll all be secure.
So what we're trying to do is, as technology changes, the one thing which is not changing is the trust between the consumer, the merchant, and the other ecosystem stakeholder. We want to maintain that trust. It takes eons to build that trust, and it takes 1 second to ruin it. So we're building that trust-based ecosystem, and then trying to basically create safe, simple, and smart kind of payment solutions which work seamlessly around the world in any situation.
Yeah. Now, so coming to the India part of it, and obviously we've spoken about a lot of ideas that are global now coming into India, but from an India perspective and how Mastercard sees it, in a country where I would say digital financial payments and the digital transformation has been so rapid, and it's a bit of surprise for a lot of the world, the speed with which we have gone forward. Where does Mastercard see itself in that ecosystem and its view on its India plans?
So India is a very important country for us from an investment perspective because India has talent, and more importantly, a lot of innovation is going on in the country, right? You can't forget that. In fact, you said earlier that we learned a lot from the West. I would say now India is creating the playbook when it comes to growth in digital payments. So there's a lot India can take to the other parts of the world. That's exactly why passkeys. India, by the way, is the first country that we're launching passkeys in for that reason. India is, at the end of the day, almost 20% of the world's population. If you want to be a company that is moving in this space, you have to give India its credit.
And what's the proposition to merchants then? Because at the end of the day, at one part, of course, you're speaking to the end consumer in the form of your cards and they see your logo everywhere. But what's the proposition to merchants who have now all of these options to accept payments, right?
So we have seen that typically merchants end up seeing revenue growth. In the modern world where digital payments come with the security risk that you were talking about, they want a more secure, a more trusted way of getting payments. So I think if you're a merchant who cares about growing your business, you want to make sure that your digital payments is safe and secure, you're going to, have a preference for one payment type versus the other. So in many ways, whether it's Mastercard or other digital payment players that are out there, we are trying to create that trust in the ecosystem.
This whole digitization, right? I mean, the digitization is happening everywhere. Cash is too expensive, and it has its own shortcomings. Right? So,
Thank you so much for this conversation and great insight into how Mastercard views the India story and the India payment story as well. Thank you.
thank you so much.
It's time for a short break, but stay tuned for more from the Global Fintech Fest.
The 18th of September will be one of the most watched days for global markets. A turning point that could change the course of the financial markets and economies. The big shift is coming.
The time has come for policy to adjust. The direction of travel is clear, and the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks.
It's not about if, it's about how much. Will the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points or 50 basis points? What will the impact on India be? Catch all the action live on NDTV Profit.
अगर फूड प्राइसेस ज़्यादा है, हम सिर्फ जिसको कहते हैं कि कोर इन्फ्लेशन कम हो गया, ठीक है, इन्फ्लेशन कम हो गया, अगर वो कहेंगे तो क्रेडिबल नहीं रहेगा। फिलहाल हमको ये कॉन्फिडेंस है कि इन्फ्लेशन कम हो रहा है और 4% के आसपास पहुंच जाना चाहिए, लेकिन इस साल का एवरेज हमने 4.5% दिया है। यंग इंडियंस आर एस्पिरेशनल और इसमें कोई गलत चीज़ नहीं है। जब एक कंट्री प्रोग्रेस करता है, जब एजुकेशन लेवल, टेक्नोलॉजी आगे जाता है, तो नेचुरली यंगर पॉपुलेशन जो है they get attracted to other markets. Youngsters are going into stock markets. If youngsters are buying insurance products, if they are buying, investing through mutual funds, it's a good thing. It should happen. Credit growth and credit disbursement has become very fast thanks to technology. लेकिन deposit mobilization जो है आज भी वो physical है. टेक्नोलॉजी जितना बढ़ता जा रहा है, attempts to hack into systems, attempts to do cyber frauds, they are all growing. इसमें हमने बहुत awareness create किया. हमने awareness through advertisements, through television, सारे मीडिया जो चैनल है उसमें हमने बहुत एडवर्टाइज किया, लोगों में कॉन्शियसनेस क्रिएट किया.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past, and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter, the Wall Street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
According to a recent survey by PhonePe and Boston Consulting Group, digital payments in India are projected to reach $10 trillion by 2026. As the scope of the business rises, so does the risk associated with cyber fraud. Authentication system for safer and smarter digital payments in India. Since its inception in 2020, the Global Fintech Fest has become a quintessential conference for the global fintech ecosystem, fostering collaboration and shaping the future of the industry. The Global Fintech Fest is not just another big-scale conference, but a catalyst for change in the fintech ecosystem. From showcasing cutting-edge fintech innovations at an expansive expo to facilitating investment pitches, workshops, and hackathons, the Global Fintech Fest drives meaningful dialogues and actions in the fintech space. And one such session was hosted on advancing banking and payments technology, preparing for the future with Gautam Agarwal, Division President, South Asia, Mastercard.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and privilege to be part of this session today. I got a very esteemed group of panelists to have the conversation on advancing banking and payments technology. From not having a single core in many cases, the banks have gone into core banking and now are talking about hollowing the core and probably a dual core kind of systems. From people coming to branches, we have now come to branches who are coming to people, whether through apps, phones and such. From using rules for decision making, we have now moved to AI-driven models, probably moving on to LLM-driven models as well going forward. From ATMs, figuring out how many ATMs we want to launch, we have now completely moved to UPI as this whole journey undertakes. So my first question really to set the stage is, how have the business priorities evolved? Right? So there have been certain priorities which have forced you as a business leader to make some choices. Your opening thoughts on that?
So I'm going to take a bit of a payment lens on this, fintech lens as a network. So for us, when I think of our journey, the focus was on innovating and educating consumers and merchants and others alike about, digital payments. We have already crossed that hump in this country. People are getting, educated. So for us now it is, how do we move from access to actually educating them on how to use these tools, right? So just because the tool exists is not enough. There's a lot of fraud happening. People don't know, what to do with those OTPs, pins that come through. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done, a lot of literacy, digital literacy as we are calling it. Alongside, creating trust. I think Prashantji talked about, attacks, fraud attacks happening. So cybersecurity for us is a big centerpiece. We're seeing a lot of trends that suggest that we need to focus on that. And therefore, related to that is inclusion. So the fact is that digital payments still, any form today in the country, are still centered around the urban sectors of the country. We still have a big portion of this country that sits in the tier 2, tier 3 cities and villages, and we have to make sure that they are comfortable adopting these technologies. So the technologies themselves exist, but are they actually using them? Do they understand how to use them? Are they comfortable using them? Do they trust these technologies? That's been sort of our focus and shift, if you will. So the way we are looking at investments at Mastercard, so the principles that we have used at Mastercard, really around 5 things when it comes to technology. One, we have to do something that enables choice, whether it's consumer choice, merchant choice, anybody else. I think that's what Sandeep touched upon earlier, the example that he gave with their gateway product. We have a similar gateway product, MPGS, that allows us to do that, right? So choice is very important. The other thing for our second principle we have is integrated experiences, right? So if you think about it, even with the plastic, you had to dip, you had to, swipe. Then we've moved to tap now. But that process also is a process. We're moving to wearables now. Wearables will make it almost like in your subconscious. You will just walk. You will not be actually making that transaction, in that sense. You won't be doing something. It'll just happen, right? So that is integration, right? So for us, that is that next journey, if you will. Then the third thing, of course, is real time. Given the example that I gave, everything has to happen real time. Gone are the days when you would talk about this thing being near real time also, for that matter, right? So anything that we do today has to be some sort of real time. And the fourth thing is, Prashantji talked about it earlier, the way transactions are scaling, whether it's in India or anywhere else in the world, you have to set your operations such that it can scale well. If operations won't scale, again, inclusive and all of that, it just won't work. And the last piece is transparent, right? Systems have to be transparent.
whether it's a consumer, a merchant, bank partners, everybody has become very smart. They know exactly what's the price point they're getting, what's the value they're getting for the price point that they have. They're looking for reports, they're looking for analysis, all of that done. So using AI and other things to do the right reporting and bring in the right transparency in the system is sort of important. So I think, to me, those principles are what we are applying when we're making technology investments.
That was a fascinating round of conversation all around.
We should give a huge round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledgeful insight with us. That was a lovely session.
As digital frauds and cyber financial scams are becoming increasingly common in India, in order to combat them, Mastercard launched its payment passkeep service and enhanced biometric authentication at this year's GFF. Demonstrating it is Jon Lambert, Mastercard's Chief Product Officer.
And it has sent a message to ICICI that the payment is valid.
So at Mastercard, we've taken a goal to digitally empower 1 billion citizens and 50 million small businesses and connect them to the digital economy by 2025. There are 3 areas that we're really focusing on. One is women entrepreneurs, the second is farmers, and the third is small businesses. And we do this through 2 ways. One, through working with partnerships to drive digital literacy and providing technical know-how to get these people digitally empowered and more financially savvy. The second is through building our own tech platforms like Farm Pass and Community Pass, which can then digitally enable farmers, for example, to digitally buy and sell produce through a digital marketplace. So I think the DPI story in India is actually second to none worldwide. And what the government's done with the Jam Trinity, with Aadhaar and identity, with UPI, with banking and payments, that is actually a very fundamental foundation upon which networks like us and fintechs can then start to innovate around it. So the catalyst of growth is really the DPI ecosystem that actually is in place. So we're very grateful for the government's efforts, and we are partnering with the government as well as the regulator in various forms to actually be able to leverage the DPI that's been created to drive greater digitization.
Another important launch at the GFF was the payment wearables by Mastercard in collaboration with Boat, India's leading wearables brand. Through this, cardholders will be able to tokenize their existing Mastercard debit and credit cards for all supported banks and enable tap and pay functionality on their Boat smartwatches.
So Boat is very proud of this partnership. I think we are the first Indian brand to do tokenization on the card and on the app. The partnership goes a long way in terms of bringing, technology at a price which has not been available to the Indian audience. So, we're very, very proud of it and very, very thankful to Mastercard for having Boat as their partner on this initiative. Over a period of time, right, if you've seen the adoption of digital payments has grown very, very massively. And I think, contactless payment is going to be the future, where you're talking about buses, metros, coffee shop, right? You don't want to pull out your phone, scan anything. So anything under 5,000, I think this is the way to go. And I think that market will keep growing.
The 18th of September will be one of the most watched days for global markets. A turning point that could change the course of the financial markets and economies. The big shift is coming.
The time has come for a policy to adjust. The direction of travel is clear, and the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks.
It's not about if, it's about how much. Will the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points or 50 basis points? What will the impact on India be? Catch all the action live on NDTV Profit.
अगर फूड प्राइसेस ज़्यादा है, हम सिर्फ जिसको कहते हैं कि कोर इन्फ्लेशन कम हो गया, ठीक है, इन्फ्लेशन कम हो गया, अगर वो कहेंगे वो क्रेडिबल नहीं रहेगा। फिलहाल हमको ये कॉन्फिडेंस है कि इन्फ्लेशन कम हो रहा है और 4% के आसपास पहुंच जाना चाहिए, लेकिन इस साल का एवरेज हमने 4.5% दिया है। यंग इंडियंस आर एस्पिरेशनल और इसमें कोई गलत चीज नहीं है। जब एक कंट्री प्रोग्रेस करता है, जब एजुकेशन लेवल टेक्नोलॉजी आगे जाता है, तो नेचुरली यंगर पॉपुलेशन जो है they get attracted to other markets. Youngsters are going into stock markets. If youngsters are buying insurance products, if they are buying investing through mutual funds, it's a good thing. It should happen. Credit growth and credit disbursement has become very fast thanks to technology. लेकिन deposit mobilization जो है आज भी वो physical है। टेक्नोलॉजी जितना बढ़ता जा रहा है, attempts to hack into systems, attempts to do साइबर फ्रॉड्स, दे आर ऑल ग्रोइंग। इसमें हमने बहुत अवेयरनेस क्रिएट किया। हमने अवेयरनेस थ्रू एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स, थ्रू टेलीविजन, सारे मीडिया जो चैनल है उसमें हमने बहुत एडवर्टाइज किया, लोगों में कॉन्शियसनेस क्रिएट किया।
Bro, what are you doing?
I'm trading FNOs.
So, have you made any money?
Oh, it's simple. If you think the market is moving upwards, just buy Nifty call option. But if you think the market could slide downwards,
simplifying futures and options trading.
Don't worry about the future.
We've got your options covered.
Futures and options strategy that will help you move with the tide.
An unmissable trade.
If you want to be in the money.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point. Thanks so much for tuning in to Talking Point. I'm your host, Neeraj Shah. The case for a chat with our guest today. Has the large cap pivot begun already? Would the festive cheer aid consumption, which certainly needs a bit of a kicker? And would the pharma focus in India continue, considering a slew of developments that have happened already within that space, including the Biosecure Act in the US and more? Let's talk about all of this and more with our guest, Ashish Gupta of Access AMC, joins us right now on the show. Ashish, great having you. Thanks for taking the time out. Neeraj here. I hope all is well.
Yes. Hi, Neeraj. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is entirely ours. Ashish, I'm asking you a bit of a here and now question, and then we move on to the longer term picture. But this sudden spurt of momentum that India got yesterday, and maybe some of the other markets too, is this preempting some rate easing cycles ahead of them actually happening, or are there other technical reasons for the same?
So I think my personal belief is that yes, definitely the outlook of the market because of the expected rate cut is positive. But what we saw yesterday, and particularly in the last couple of hours of trading, is more to do with the interlinkages the cash market has with the derivatives market, right? And we have spoken about this earlier, that the frenzy that is there on index options around expiry days in particular can drive volatility in the market. So I think we have to be careful about that and not read too much into the volatility that happens in the last couple of hours, particularly on expiry days.
Got it. Okay. The near-term reasons notwithstanding, Ashish, the fact remains that we are a market which on certain counts of valuation could be considered expensive. Though the bulls tell me that, hey, Neeraj, look at the 10-year value